What you focus on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lady K Chat podcast. You are here with your favorite host, Lady K, and I am pleased that you are here today joining me. And if this is the first time that you are joining here, I am the one that speaks her truth. I speak that fire truth. I don't hold my tongue back, but I always say I give it with love and I give it with grace because God is grateful to us, so we should give it back unto the earth. But I thank you for being here with me today. Today is this is awesome for me. This is a oh gosh, how can I say that? This is something that's out a little bit out my comfort zone. This is something that I have been experienced for the past 21 years. And today I'm going to open up and I'm going to talking about today's title, which is called Raising Autism. And I'm speaking about my journey as a mother to an autistic son. It has been 21 interesting years. I have to say that, guys, because that's exactly where this journey have taken me. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack and to unload. But I just want to say this to you. I had my son at the age of 18. And in that area of my life, not knowing what was ahead of me, right? Didn't know that all this was coming. I had to make a decision as an 18-year-old. Hey, Kalima, are you sure you can go on this journey by yourself? And when I say by myself, I mean on a single parent journey. And I had to sit there and I had to ask myself, and my response was yes. And let me tell you something, guys. I'm so happy that I said yes to the assignment, because that's exactly what that was. That was yes to God's assignment. The assignment to take care of this child that's going to come with challenges, that's going to make you question yourself as a parent, that's going to make you question yourself. Did I make the right decision? Woo! Come on now. Listen, I don't want nobody up here fluffing saying to yourself, oh, that ain't the right way to talk about your truth. Listen, we're not going to do that today because, like I told you, I speak the truth and I speak it with love. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of parents out there that went through that have been in the midst, and you have asked yourself, you have doubted yourself. But at the same time, too, even though I decided to make that decision as a single mom, I still had a community. I had support. But even though you have community, you have support, you already know at the end of the day, you are mom, and you are mom alone. Okay, so your support system is going to do the best to their advantage, but you already know you're going to go through the snot, nose, tears, waking up 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, getting 2 hours of sleep, and you got to go to work. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that today because that was my experience, But once I made that decision about my son, here's the rewarding thing, right? Because we don't realize some of the things that we put ourselves in position in. Or I'm gonna say we think we do, but God actually placed you there, but you don't understand it and see it until later. When my son was young, right? He was born. I think he was less than a year old. I decided to take a job in the direct service professional industry, and that's pretty much when you are working with people that has disability, not knowing at that time that I was going to sooner or later to find out that my child had a disability. So in this house that I was working at, this was like one of the lowest functional houses in the agency that I worked, and I was there for almost 3 years. And guess what? It was both a blessing and it was also overwhelming, because let me tell you something, dealing with people who have special needs or they may be challenging in other ways, it's not easy. And sometimes it's an exhausting job. And imagine being in this all the time, all day, every day. And I realized it. I was like, wow, I was actually going into work to deal with this. And then later on, I found out I was going home to this, because I'm going to tell you one thing about, it doesn't matter it does matter. In my case, I didn't recognize my son's signs until I think maybe he was about 2. I maybe a little bit before too, because I noticed he wasn't speaking like I, like regular kids normally speak, or you see kids a lot that have certain words. I noticed that his verbiage wasn't there. Sorry, God, this fly is in my face, and he's annoying. Oh my gosh! So I apologize in advance if y'all keep seeing me doing that damn fly. But anyways, I noticed his verbal wasn't fully there, and I was concerned. So I took him to the doctor, and the doctor said, hey, you know what? Let me just give you some information where, he can get tested. He's like, he's still young. He was like, you shouldn't worry. And, I'm like, okay. But then I believe when he came close to 3, I'm still noticing the signs. He's not really talking. He's saying little words. And at that point, they should be saying a little bit more. So the beautiful thing about this, and in case you're watching this and you don't know, or you're in this situation right now, there is help available for you if you go through your local school district. I believe it's an early intervention program. I forgot the name of it because in each state it might be different. But anyway, if you reach out to your school district area, they will inform you how early intervention can help you and your family. They can actually sit down with you, and they can come in and they can evaluate the child, and and give a diagnosis. So early, he definitely had the signs, because a lot of autistic kids, one of the biggest one of the biggest ways to see if they fall on a spectrum is their eye contact. And that was like really the most dead getaway. And so that was highly there at that time with my son. And besides that, doing other tests, and they was able to rule out a few things and able to give that diagnosis of his autism. But here's the thing about this, right? You're not sure as a parent how delayed or how high functioning your child will be, because they're still at that early stages. And I'm not going to lie, and let's be honest, let's be truthful. If you are a parent who have experiences, or you have not done this yet, let me tell you something. You have those concerns, you have those thoughts, because then you ask yourself, can I deal with it? Am I going to be a great mom? It's going back to what I said earlier. Can I see myself navigating this? It's too late to turn back, because you already made a decision. But it's like, at the same time, I want to know, am I going to be a great mom? I want to know, if I do stumble, what else can I do? Whatever support can I get? It's one of those things. And this is the mind-boggling thing. It's going to come, and it's going to challenge you, and you're going to question yourself. But I have to say this, my advice to you, give yourself breaks. I'm not sure when you can take them, but I have to say to you, give yourself breaks, because being a mom, I'm just be real with you. Whether you have a child that has a special need, or just a quote unquote regular child, parents are challenging. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna test your gangster, especially at a young age, and you be like, and you're really gonna have to develop your temperament. What's the word? You're gonna have to learn how to develop your self-control of your temper, because let me tell you something. I spoke with so many parents, and we understand that our kids can push us to levels that nobody can't. But the main thing is, right, this is what I learned as a parent, right? And this is just raw truth. However you are, eventually you will see it show up in your kids. If you're aggressive, you're going to see the aggressive in your kids. If you're a shouter and a yeller, you're going to see some of that show up in your kids. And you have to take accountability and responsibility. So again, I know it's challenging, but you're going to have to sometimes pump the brake and just fall back just a little bit, because you have to understand, whatever I give now, this is what they're going to be challenging when they get older. Do you want them to challenge? Do you want them to be challenged with that? And that's also speaking with these kids. Let me tell you something about these kids with disability. Oh my gosh, they are super, super, super and amazing smart. They're so intelligent. They know what they're doing, and they know how to get away with stuff. And they also too know how to, desire the things that they want. and who they can get it from. Listen, it does not mean that just because they are different from your other children or different from children in general, in the general public, it doesn't mean that they don't have feelings. It doesn't mean that they don't want you to love them, because I understand some parents don't know how to. And you be like, well, how can that? Listen, I done seen some stuff. And even myself, I had to realize, wait a second, Kalima. You're lacking in that space, and you're lacking in that area, and your son needs you. And I'm thinking, and this is the thing, right? Because we don't know. We might be thinking we are doing our best, because at that time we are. But once you come more into awareness of some of the behaviors that you're displaying and that your child is displaying, you're gonna, after you come to yourself and be like, you know what, let me check myself. And let me have checks and balances. And to have checks and balances, it makes me go back to when you are getting this child evaluated, that the school district or the organization around you, they can actually give you material that can actually help with your parents. To see, a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so this. But let me tell you something, in this day and age, because autism was still being coming a long way back then, 21 years ago. But now there are so many resources out there. There's so many programs. There's so many services. Tap into it. Don't feel by yourself. Don't feel overwhelmed. I understand once you come home, it's a game changer, but you might be able to have someone come into the home and step in and provide that to you. So I want to talk about that experience. I want to talk about when my son, I think he was like 3, between the age of 3 and like going on to 4. After I got the evaluation and they see, where he was falling on the spectrum, I was able to get someone to come to the house, and they was able to give him speech therapy. And boy, let me tell you something. Oh my gosh, my son, he was beasting. And when I say he was beasting, sometimes he challenged his aide at that time, because she was giving him speech language. So sometimes what we had to do is I had to learn to step out the room. And, of course, at that time, a lot of us, we go through the mindset of, what if that person's being mean to my child? If they're doing something wrong. However, your children sometimes act up, when you're in the room. And sometimes it might be best if you step out. And that was the case. Sometimes I had to step out because I had to allow her to do her work. So I'm giving this advice to you too. I mean, you got to fill the person out. You got to use wisdom. But in my case, I did. And I realized for me, it was best for me to step out so she can do her work, because my son was playing. He was showing his butt off, guys, right? But I learned as I separate myself and I let her do her job, within that moment, I had to realize that was kind of like my downtime. And, and even though I have my son in the forefront of my mind, I had to like woosah. And I believe he got about an hour. So maybe even 20, 30 minutes out of that. This is me to myself to have that breathing moment. And here's another beautiful thing too, right? At that time, when my son was young, I love to tell people this all the time. I grew up in a multi-generational household. So the multi-generational household looked like me, my mom, and my grandmother. And, I had the ability to have, my mom there sometimes, when she wasn't working, and grandma there because my grandma was retired, and me. So I love that. So it didn't put everything on me. But of course, sometimes your child want to run to you, and they want you, and they want your attention, they want your affection. So, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. But the greatest thing out of all of this, it doesn't matter, what type of child that you have. I think creating a routine is a great thing. And I know for a long time when I was younger, I struggled with that. I struggled with the routine, because guess what? Life happens, okay? People are going to tell you, oh, yeah, you have that. Yeah, it does help. But listen, there will be routines like the bed routine, there'll be the eating routine, but then there's also the moment when you have that sickly child, and I'm in and out the emergency room. Man, let me tell you something. I was so much in and out the emergency room. I said, don't. I told him, I said, y'all ain't designated a room for me yet, because that's how bad it was, and that went on for years because my baby was sick. He was dealing with asthma and allergies and eczema, and those three are the worst combinations ever. So, he was really challenging. I used to have to put mittens on his hands, guys, and have to tape it so he wouldn't scratch himself to death. He would scratch himself to death and he would just bleed. Oh my gosh. Days, the medicine wasn't helping. Sometimes he was just too young for certain medications, and it was just really challenging. My sleep was challenged. Guys, the sleep was challenging, what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it was definitely hard for me. However, throughout the years, it got a little bit better. Oh, let me touch base on this, right? The eating. A lot of the kids on the spectrum, they're very funny about the texture they're eating, right? So at that time, everything had to be crunchy for my son, French fries, chicken nuggets, stuff like that. He wasn't trying to feel no applesauce. He didn't like no fruit. Oh my gosh, it was a struggle. So I'm gonna have to tell you this, right? I had to do this because if I didn't, he wouldn't taste anything. I used to have moments where I used to have to trick him and real quick to shove food in his mouth. Now, even though he may spit it out, it was a point that I was able to get it in his mouth so he can taste it. And it was so funny. I remember doing this with my mom and my grandmother. It was like, I ain't doing that. And I said, that's okay. Because I know I'm gonna have to step in the areas where they didn't feel comfortable, so I can get him to open up to taste these things. Ladies and gentlemen, 21 years now, because my son's gonna be 21 soon. This boy eats almost any and everything. And at that stage, I was like, boy, is he ever going to transition and eat stuff? But throughout the years, what I had to do was put different food on his plate. He didn't like it and he picked at it. But again, I had to put it in his mouth. And then maybe year 1 he didn't like it, but maybe year 3 he got used to it. So I'm going to encourage you, whatever they don't like, whatever they you think that they're not going to eat it, do it. Now that I'm at the space in my life where I'm a vegan, because my son had allergies, I had to change certain things that I was putting in my food. So now that everything is plant-based, and the things that I buy, he can eat it, right? So I will never forget, and I was so ecstatic, guys, last year when I made a homemade mac and cheese. And I told my son, hey, you can taste it. I've been trying to get him to taste cheese for a long time. And this is the one that's dairy-free, right? And out of all days, he said, okay, I'm going to try it. Man, when I tell you right now, anything that has cheese in it, my son is a fan of it. So I want to encourage you that if you're still having struggles, problems, with the baby or with your child, to get them to eat, I'm gonna have to tell you, listen, it shall come. I would not have never known 17 years later he would be at a space that he's eating macaroni and cheese, baked ziti, I like to make homemade Alfredo sauce and things like that. And I think this is a rewarding. So the rewards come. Like I said, it was a triumphant in the beginning. It was very overwhelming. But throughout times, like I said, it got better. I put my son in different sports. He didn't want to. I had that boy in everything. I had him in karate. I had him in softball. I had him in baseball. I had him in basketball. I had him in track. And, he got to figure out what he liked and what he didn't like. You have to do these with your children. You have to get them out there in the mix. And even though, again, it's exhausting. You got the schedules, but then you got life coming in. They're throwing up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. You got to get up at 6 o'clock and go to work. Listen, I have been there and I have done that. It really was a trying space for me. And then with the behaviors, in school, again, in the school, I don't know why kids do this. It's not, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't matter because they know who to play the game with. When he was in school, he was such a great boy. They were like, I would get his report card. Oh, he's so great. He listened. He listened. But I said to myself, I'd rather have a child that's, on point in school. And when he comes home, he has to relieve his stress and whatever he's been holding independent in all day and release it at home. So, we had our challenges and we bumped our space, and it was okay that I went outside and I got help, and, they came into the home and they provide therapy, and, they gave us some exercise that we can experience together. So again, if you ever feel like you're at a catapult, and, you find yourself stressing, maybe you have to evaluate what type of support you may need at that time, because it changes throughout the years. So, for a long time, I had to evaluate this, right? I saw that my mom and my grandmother, they was a little bit more softer than him, because I think, how they feel bad for them. But me, I came as I guess, the enforcer, and I made sure that I did my part and made sure that I was tough on him, and that, I gave him tough love, and then I gave him the soft love too. But I had to give that tough love because, number one, at the end of the day, he's a boy, and I have to tell you this, guys, where he falls on the spectrum. He's very high functioning. Like I said, he's super duper smart. Oh my gosh, the boy is so intelligent. He's on that Einstein level. He can see things different than I can. And whoa, I have to tell you this, right? Because this was the moment that I finally had my aha moment, right? So sometimes it used to irritate me when I see my son not pushing himself enough, right? Because I want him to push himself to his capacity, right? And I said, mommy can do this, and this. I can multitask. I said, you see, I did the dishes. I got the laundry in. I got all of that. And he said to me one day, I'm not you. And guys, I kid you not, like, the light bulb went off, and he was a teenager at that time. And I had to sit there and I said to myself, I said, wow, he's not me. I wasn't trying to push him to be me, but I also had to understand his capabilities and what he can do. And then, of course, naturally, women, we multitask anyway. Men take their time and they do one thing. But for him, it is too much, and it is too busy for him to be throwing all these different jabs at him, because then he's getting lost and he's getting confused and he's getting overwhelmed. And I didn't realize that. But like I said, when I had that day and that moment, I realized I had to pace him different than I had to pace myself. So I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to challenge you. If you notice that within yourself, or if you notice that your kid maybe not communicating the way my son did, and that day he had his breaking moment. He was tired of me. You feel me? But again, in my mind, I think I'm doing something because I want him to be his full capable self, and he was, but it had to be at his pace. So, mama, this is you. I urge you to change some ways that you are dealing with your children. I urge you to just take the time and self-evaluate yourself, just to make sure you're not pushing you inside your children. You're actually allowing them to manifest them for the greater of them to come out. I hope this was helpful to somebody, because I'm going to be honest with you. It took me quite a minute to want to talk about me having a child with a disability, because, people are cruel and people are mean, but I didn't care. And one thing about me, what I wasn't going to do, because I saw the best in him, I wasn't going to let nobody make him feel less than, because he was amazing, and he still is amazing, and he has a journey ahead of him. And I'm so grateful for him, because he had taught me. See, we think we teach our children, right? But he had taught me some things about myself that I had to work on, so we can have a level of where we can meet one another, and we can have great times with each other, and I can accept certain things that what he does, and he can accept of who I am. And I think right now we're at a great space. It took some time for us to finally get here, but I thank God that we are finally here. And we have more to go, because this is a new chapter. Listen, that's because they get grown. It doesn't stop here. Y'all already know. Look at your mothers and your grandparents and your older people in your family. It doesn't matter how old they get, they still want to be in your business. They still want to know what's going on with you. And you know what? As they should, because that's what community looks like. But it's like that with boundaries. So I'm going into a new chapter. Like I said, my son's about to be 21, and I'm at the period where now, because I am his power of attorney, right? Where now, when we do certain things together, I tell. And I'm gonna talk about that power of attorney business, because that's really important. But now we do things together where, perfect example, we have a meeting coming up, and a lady reached out to me. She said, "Hey, who should I call? Should I call you or should I call Tony?" And I said, call Tony, and Tony's going to put me on speaker. Because now he is an adult, and I want to make him feel like he has decisions in his life, and he feels comfortable, and he see that his mom is not treating him like a baby. So now he's at the leverage where, again, how can I put this into words? I'm behind him instead of being in front of him, because like I said, when you're in parents, you're in front. You're making all these decisions. And even though some things he may not understand, I still talk to him, and I sit down with him as an adult, and I discuss things with him. So even though sometimes moms and dads, you might feel your child is not they're not being their best adults at time. And I also understand too, depending on where they fall on the spectrum, you're going to act accordingly. But even though they may not be acting as what you want, I said you still have to give that respect to them, because they are of age, and you have to allow them to make their decisions, and you have to also allow them to fall. They're going to make mistakes. They are human beings, and so are you. You can't be on them. That's too much. Give them room to breathe and allow them to be a young adult. So now I'm gonna go back with the power attorney. So before this transpired, I sat down with my son, and I discussed what that paper looks like. And I told him, I said, listen, this paper gives me and I'm saying this to you because maybe you can have this conversation with your child when that time comes. This paper right here is going to allow mommy just to be there for you, because now you're at the legal age where the state, the government, they're recognizing you as an adult, and you are an adult. But because you might need some help in certain areas, this paper is going to allow me to step in for you. And I said, and before I do anything, I will discuss that with you. So this is where we're at right now. So before I make any decisions, like for example, I would challenge him. I told him, hey, I want you to go on this website, and I want you to see if you can get free rides, right? And he went ahead and did it, right? And it's been a while. And I said, hey, go back and check on that. And he's like, hey, mom, I got approved, right? So I realized they approved him, but they didn't approve him at the disability rate, because he has a disability. And I said, hey, they didn't approve you. I said, get the form so we can now send it to your doctor's office so we can make sure we get the disability rate, because you qualify for that. And I'm going to urge you, parents, take advantage of everything that they qualify for, because the help is out there. The services is out there. I want you to stay in the loop of everything that's available for your child and for you too, because it goes both ways, because whatever that can help them and serve them, it helps you, and it takes the pressure off of you, and it helps you, again, just to have some breathing room. So I thank you guys for tuning in today, for listening part of my story and my journey. And, I'm excited because, like I said, I'm in a new stage of where he's at, and we're going to see how things go. And he's a great kid. He's a fun kid. And I think this is going to be a new and exciting stage for him because he's about to work. He's going back into the workforce. He was in school. He did feel like, you know what, Mom, this particular subject or this particular field is not me. I want to try something different. And I was all for it. Because listen, let me tell you something. We live in a different age and time where you don't need your bachelor degrees, your master's degree like we did back in the day. And I'm all for it. And like I said, because he is equipped with gift after gift, that boy can make probably $1 million in his sleep right now if he really wanted to. But we're working on that. But guys, with that being said, again, I thank you for tuning in and I thank you for listening to me. I hope this was insightful. And I say share this with someone because someone might need to hear this. They might be struggling and they may not know what else to do and not realizing that they have so much access to the support out there. And of course, I understand sometimes too, it goes, it might go according to your income. However, once they become of age, that's a whole different wrap. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Continue to follow us here at the Lady K Chat podcast. Please, again, I want you to like, comment, and share. And I definitely want to hear from you. Tell me what you thought about this episode. Tell me how it touched you. Tell me how, I can be more helpful. Let me know if you need a specific directory that I can provide for you. Okay. So I'll see you here next week, 6 p.m. Tuesday. See you guys. Lady K.